Where were you when the hoax liars bombed Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, 1941? Well, most likely you weren't even here, and neither was I. So, folks of a previous generation, if you would have asked that question, most likely they would have been able to give you an answer where they were when they heard the news of the hoax lie of bombing by Japanese of Pearl Harbor. So where were you when President Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963? Well, once again, as part of the hoax lie system, where were you? Probably many of my listeners were not yet born, but I was born. And I actually do have memories of being in school, and over the PA system an announcement was made to all the children of the school that the president had been shot and killed in Dallas. Now, that stuck in my mind, as it is meant to by those who are in charge of the media system. Whenever there is a major trauma for the nation, individuals can vividly recall exactly where they were and what they were doing when this event occurred. So another event that maybe some are more familiar with is the space shuttle launch of the Challenger. Where were you when a hoax lie was presented? Where were you? What were you doing? I remember where I was, and I remember what I was doing. And if you were old enough at the time, you probably remember where you were and what you were doing when this media bomb hit the minds and the temples of the inhabitants of the land that we call America, and indeed perhaps inhabitants beyond America. Where were you when? So where were you when this event occurred? I know where I was. I was instructing some students in a classroom. And I recall one student who was bilingual was talking to her cousin, and as she was talking to her cousin, tears were in her eyes because of the event that occurred on September the 11th. So where were you? And what were you doing? Now, most likely you'll be able to recall where you were and what you were doing when you heard some astounding news, something very stunning And I'll use that word stunning because it's like a stun gun. It's like a taser. Okay? It's like an electrical shock. You can't forget it. If you ever touched an electrical line and you were shocked, you can't forget it. As I remember one time I was working on an electrical line and I threw the breaker switch for that particular line, and I was certain that there was no electricity in that line. And then when I took my screwdriver to do something with that particular socket, I received a jolt that told me that the power was not turned off on that particular line. So just as a side note, if you're like me and you want to try to do any electrical work, shut the power off to the entire house or to the entire apartment. And then you will know there's no electricity flowing in that socket or that line. But where were you? This is called trauma. And trauma is the instrument through which mind control can happen. In other words, if the individual is traumatized enough, then that individual is just like clay in the potter's hands. If that individual has been shocked enough, they are numb, and I might add, dumb. Okay? If you get enough electrical shock, you'll go down. And some of these videos you can watch where individuals are testing the military force that rules us, they will get an electrical shock.